Hey Spuddies, Potato McWhiskey here, and welcome back to my new favorite 4X grand strategy game, Victoria 3. Oh my god, I've been having so much fun playing this game. We have built up an incredibly powerful Japan. In fact, if we take a moment and we look at the GDP, we're still 8th in GDP, but we have almost outstripped the United States of America. We're catching up on Russia. We're a little bit behind Great Britain. I think Great Britain has done a little bit of shenanigans because their GDP went crazy. Canada has formed and it is cursed. Oh my god, what is this? The United States, what are you doing to Canada? We did just get mechanized workshops. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment here, but Mexico also. Texas has been, unfortunately, slurped up and eaten by America. I don't even know what America's doing over here, dude. I just don't look at that part of the map, okay? But we did just get mechanized workshops, which will actually increase the capability of us to do economy of scale. Now, what is economy of scale? Basically, if you build multiple buildings of the same type in an area, you get an economy scale bonus. For example, I have 27 government administrations here, and now they're going from a 20% throughput bonus to a 26% throughput bonus because up to 30 factories or buildings or whatever can actually contribute now to that throughput bonus. Now, important to remember that a throughput bonus is a throughput bonus. It's not a productivity bonus. If it is an unprofitable factory, it will just lose money faster. That's why you have to be very careful with throughput. Anybody who played Victoria 2 knows all too well. I am going to go for reinforced concrete here. This will be a 50% construction sector throughput bonus. Now, this will make my construction sector use more resources, but I have a very healthy, a very strong construction sector, as you can see here. So hopefully this will be a 15% boost in the consumption of resources, but also the production of things on this end of the aisle. Now, one thing that's a little bit dangerous for my economy right now is that I'm extremely dependent on trade routes for my iron. Yeah, there's a ton of people exporting to me. So it might be a good idea to get a strategic supply of iron for myself. But for now, I'm not too worried about it. I'm mostly looking to export wood. I'm just going to try to produce as much wood as possible. Logging camps are a really, really great building because they give you a very basic economy for a ton of different places. The main thing that we are waiting for to happen... Whoa. What's going on here? We have New South Wales going against the Aboriginal uprising. Well, Australia's having a bit of trouble. I'm not going to get involved. In fact, it might actually be a kind of cool idea for me to support the Aboriginals. However, that very clearly would get Great Britain involved. I'm not quite ready to challenge Great Britain. Potentially in the next 10, 25 years, we could maybe do that. But yeah, we're mostly waiting for the restoration, right? We've managed to get rid of the power of the shogun, and we can do the Aoshi restoration. I don't know what that's going to do for us or what that's going to mean. But I think we should start maybe looking towards these journal entries, right? Like the path to liberalism. We need to urbanize the Japanese shogunate. We need to think about public trading, farms to factories. We need to have peasants be less than 35% of the population. We need to have booming industries. All these are cool little events that you can trigger. It would be good if we researched malaria prevention actually too. I think we might start making our way towards there. Malaria prevention is still quite expensive technologically. You love to see this. We have a massive government infrastructure and we're still not losing money, even though we're at a fairly reasonable tax rate and we're even managed to get rid of some consumption taxes. The economy of Japan today is nothing compared to the economy of January 1836. Like, been 40 years and we've, maybe tripled our GDP? Increased our population by like 25%? We're like the 6th most populated country in the world? Dude, we're on an upward arc. It is looking good for Japan. A lot of these tiny little countries started to flip independent. I gotta wait in conquest. I can't do any warfare, right? I'm waiting for the shogun to be gotten rid of. Damn it. Believe it or not, I actually didn't realize this, but the trade unions are now strong enough to be represented in my government. I kind of noticed it, but I didn't really acknowledge it. And this is actually interesting because they have a lot of really interesting political agendas, right? They want graduated taxation, they want command economy, they want protectionism, old age pensions. They're going to allow me to potentially look into social security. And also, I need women in the workforce. Now, the downside of this is that it will lower the positive birth rate of my country. However, allowing more women to be allowed into the workforce will actually increase the GDP of my country because women will be able to do more skilled labor, more skilled roles, thus increasing the quality of life of my people, meaning the mortality will go down, meaning the effective birth rate could actually potentially go up if we start giving women more rights. Because if you imagine, like, the more productive and free people are, the more likely it is that they're going to survive negative events. Okay, there's a little bit of a revolution brewing. Right, I can't do any political reforms while I'm waiting for the Meiji Restoration. Never mind. I'm sorry, women, you'll have to wait for another day. Apologies, I swear. I swear I want to give you rights. God. So I think I'm going to do a massive expansion of my government. I'm going to raise taxes and just start throwing down construction sectors. I can afford another... what looks to be 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's go for 11, right? I'm going to start building up this Japanese mainland like in a really big way. I wonder, can I import tools from anyone? Yeah, nobody's really producing tools in any great quantity, enough to export to me. But I may as well massively expand the government infrastructure while we're still waiting for the restoration event to trigger. So we now have fully built lumber industries across Japan. There's only a couple more lumber mills to finish, which means we are now cranking out the maximum, quite literal maximum amount of lumber that we can. Now we could theoretically, we do have like some island holdings and like a few places where we could maybe make some more. And that might not be a bad idea to encourage immigration to these places because that would increase the quality of life. What's the value of fruit in my economy? Fruit is actually quite expensive, so it might be a good idea to go through and just build a little bit of fruit in some of the areas where it makes sense. God, why is your market access so bad? Hold on. Did me building cargo ports not help? Hold on. How much do you need? You need like 10 more. Look, have a couple extra cargo ports. Any basic goods that are expensive. It looks like dye is relatively expensive, so let's do a little bit more dye plantations. This is like our little dye triangle over here. Fertilizer is moderately expensive. That's not a big deal. Anything that's really cheap that we could maybe make use of. Not particularly. I think now is the time that we start the food industry expansion. Let me just have a little check here. What's the infrastructure like? There's not that much infrastructure. What's our engine use like? Engines are fairly cheap. Let's make ourselves... steel is quite expensive. So let's make another steel mill. And a single steel mill should be easily able to supply a pair of motor industries. A pair of motor industries should easily be able to supply 8 railroads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that'll be the infrastructure expansion that is the precursor to the food industry expansion. We are running a little bit of a command economy. We can eventually set our economy to just auto-expand, but I'm going to focus on this first. So we're going to put a single food expansion in the capital state, and then we'll take a look at it. So baking powder will use a ton of sugar and a ton of grain and produce a lot of groceries. So it uses up 70 food to make 75 food. So it seems to be roughly what it does. It just always produces a slight surplus of food. Yeah, it just produces a slight surplus. Do we want to use canneries? Actually, well, if we started using canneries, that would increase our demand for iron, but also fish. And we do have a lot of fishing industry potential in Japan. What about patent stills? Do we want to make liquor? We could go for liquor production. We have everything we need to make it. How do people feel about liquor? Is there even liquor in Japan right now? There is, and it's expensive. So I think what we'll do is we will set the defaults for the urban food industries to baking powder, canneries, and patent stills, so we can crank out that liquor, and everyone's going to want to buy liquor off us. So don't think that they won't, because we're going to be making the cheapest Japanese alcohol in the world. Literally every single one of these states is going to get 5 food industries. It is an absurd amount of food industries to be building. It's going to take us nearly 2 years to get through this construction queue, but I think it's worth it. We need to kickstart that food economy in order to push the quality of life of my people and the GDP of my country vertical. There's the 15% construction sector throughput. So if we go ahead and check out, like, look, look at the amount of construction we're doing now. Oh my God, dude. Holy Iron is so expensive. I need to like import more iron. We could research feminism. We could start making our way towards central planning and stuff like that. It would be good to get malaria prevention, so I'm going to start researching these tier 2 techs. That would allow me to expand into Africa and sort of get control of this area. Now, the unfortunate part of this is that this will make the construction sector like more expensive to run. But the fact that we built so much wood, and a lot of our wood demand is actually trade routes, meaning if we start consuming more wood, that those trade routes should lower their capacity because they become less profitable, right? Trade routes act as like a balancing valve for your economy. And to that end, I should actually have a look and see if there's anything I can like import or export. Nah, nobody's really making much in the way of chairs. I could specialize in the construction of these materials. I don't have a lot of convoys. Yeah, I've got a trading problem. Once I'm done building these food industries, I'm going to massively expand my capabilities of trading. Or at least just moderately expand it. Actually, I think expanding my capability of trading might actually be more important. So I'm going to get started on the shipyards now. Plus, this will also serve as a really good opportunity for me to continue to expand my naval abilities. We are up to a GDP per capita of £1.43. I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. Now, granted, there's a few places like Great Britain that are up to like 3 times that. That's crazy. So I'd love to get that really cranking away. Let's take a moment to actually kind of review the demographics of Japan here. The average lower strata guy is actually impoverished. The average middle class is in a middling position. My upper strata is quite secure. This actually tells me that my upper class is not able to access the expensive luxury goods that they're demanding. Or else there's just like certain, I'm missing certain goods in my economy, and I think groceries might be one of them. It's one of those key sort of upper middle class goods that they start using. But I feel like I've managed to create a very successful middle class. Not so great an upper class, but that's because I just have a ton of capitalists and they're just not making that much money. So peasants are still overwhelmingly the majority of my country, but I do have now 8 million laborers. There's over 1 million clerks, 1 million clergymen, 1 million machinists, which are like doing pretty damn well, right? They're doing middling. The aristocrats we've managed to, I feel like, severely hinder and prevent the growth of. We've got a lot of shopkeepers, we've got a lot of farmers, a lot of military men, some bureaucrats, and we have a huge amount of capitalists, 200,000 capitalists who are rich as hell. This is exactly what we want. We want these guys to be rich so that we can use them to do the political changes in the country that we need to do. Oh, this is actually really nice. We can introduce sewing machines into our into our clothing textile mills, rather. This will massively increase the consumption of tools, fabric, and dye, but we can deal with that. So I think that's going to be sort of the direction we start moving towards. I think after I increase my capacity to trade, because that's like a big problem I have right now, is I simply cannot trade enough. Okay, we're starting to head into a deficit, and I really don't like being in a deficit unless I'm in laissez-faire, because you get the massive interest reduction. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise taxes, the old reliable raising of taxes. That did not take as big of a chunk out of this as I was hoping. Oh dear, we're in debt. Potential debt, as in like debt spiral, is about to happen. What can we do? What goods are expensive? Mostly iron. Yeah, iron. So we'll need to massively increase our iron production. Although potentially increasing our trade capacity might help alleviate that iron mine problem that we have. It seems like it is. Increasing our capacity to trade is making it so that our economy is becoming more flexible. Yeah, it's one of the advantages of isolationism is you don't need to build a... Oh, God damn it. Another uprising. Where is this one? Yeah, one of the great things is... God, there's 3 front lines here. Man, you're killing me. Yeah, when you're isolationist, you don't have to worry about trading. It's like one of the big advantages. But it's not quite as simple as that. Because sure, you don't have to worry about trading. When you eventually do switch, you'll realize that you had like basically no convoys to be able to do all of your trading. So unfortunately, the restoration is not going ahead. It doesn't look like progress is lost, however, which I'm happy about. We should be able to deal with this uprising pretty quickly. And the nice thing about the uprising is it does mean that we will conquer the rest of this area pretty quick smart. And that will give us control of this area. Another place where we can get potential rubber plantations. I just need like to get a few rubber plantations was my hope. Rubber can be very scarce. This is also potentially over here like a really good source of rubber, if I'm correct. This whole area. Ooh, there's actually gold in Brunei. I need to... there will be Japanese soldiers in Brunei soon. That will be my gold. God, I love gold. Speaking of gold, did I find any more? No, didn't find any gold in South Island, sadly. So we have an election. The Imperial Rule Party is doing quite well, but we're trying to keep the shogunate out of power. We've managed to suppress them, which is going really well. Peace deal has been proposed. We will accept the annexation of Salawi. This will actually free up a little bit of colonial throughput that will now start going towards some of these other areas. Yeah, but beautifully, we managed to get control of this Celebes here. The food industries are starting to kick in, and you'll notice that the price of groceries is staying fairly constant. And that's because as the price comes down, more people are purchasing it because the price of things like grain and fish are going up. So they're kind of turning to groceries as their primary source of things. And I think building food industries is going to be a massive revolution for our country. It looks like the UK is invading Chiang Mai. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a war going on here. I think they declared independence and now there's going to be a war. I should really start paying attention to that kind of stuff because I should start trying to kick the UK out of here. Maybe not this decade, but around the turn of the 1900s when all the little revolutions start happening. Prussia looks like it's stabilized, by the way. It's an absolute monarchy again. Russia is still at Tsardom. How's the politics coming along? They still have serfdom. They seem to just be happy to continue to do what they're doing. What's the GDP like? I mean, they've increased, but nowhere near where they should have, in my opinion. Their population has stayed relatively stable. This goes to show you that your people aren't prosperous. You don't give them healthcare. You don't give them what they need. They will not be fruitful and multiply. They will not live up to their human potential. And that's really that's what I love about the Victoria game. I know I'm playing a little bit of a colonizing evil empire, but really my favorite way to play the Victoria is to build like a utopia. So that's why I'm really looking forward to. I'm recording this before the release. So my plan is to make like a Utopia Persia starting from scratch. That'll be like a really, really fun run through. Like we're going to go for multiculturalism. We'll do colonization, but we'll be a multicultural colonizing empire. So these people will be absorbed and colonized, but they will have like full citizenship rights. It's going to be like a really, really fun way to play. And we're going to try to like build a perfect society of, you know, beautiful people. And it's going to cause, you know, beautiful as in like they live beautiful lives. Like they're just happy and, you know, everything's going well for them. But it's going to require a lot of compromises and a lot of work from our end to get to that utopia. That's kind of like the fun of Victoria, is to build a utopia. How's the iron price? Iron is actually super cheap to import. Everyone seems to be exporting to me. In particular, Russia. Dude, why is Russia exporting so much iron to me? Oh my God. I am like... I'm like so much of... Russia is producing so much iron and I'm buying almost all of it. How are clippers in my market actually? Clippers are fairly cheap. You know what I think that means? I think that means I could go to my economy here and I could switch my shipyards to military production. And then this massive, massive surplus of man of wars, I could maybe export to somebody who really wants them. Like the French. The French really want warships, as do the British. So I'll like sell ships to both of them. And these trade routes should increase over time, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So we managed to build all of the food industries. Did that even take a dent out of the demand for food? Not really. Kind of a little bit. I mean, we're still building food industries. They're still going. We're about halfway through the honorable restoration. Now, the really cool thing is we should be producing like a literal insane amount of liquor. Yeah, liquor is super cheap. So I'm hoping that maybe we can export it. Oh, the Zulu, they want liquor. Hey, Zulu, you can have my liquor. I do like it that the the balance line, sometimes there's like a big swing in prices. Why am I losing 58k? What changed? Oh, tariffs shot up and down. I see. That's tariffs going crazy, I think. So there's rubber mastication. This will actually allow us to build rubber plantations. And there's like an incredibly limited supply of rubber in the world. Like super, super limited. I'm paying a lot in the way of interest. As long as my interest doesn't outstrip my construction goods rate, I should be fine. So let me have a look here. They're the Orangian Proletarian Revolt. That's these guys in South Africa. They were revolting against Orangi. They want to owe me an obligation. I can't get to you, dude. I can't help you. Ah, you guys waited too long to make the play, you fools. You're dead now. I would have maybe helped you out. There's a huge amount of buy orders for dye in my economy, so that might be a really, really good way for me to increase the GDP. I think though my main goal right now is to get a strategic supply of iron, so I'm not completely dependent upon trade, because that means, you know, if trade relations between me and Russia, or Russia has some kind of revolution or disruption to their supply, I'm going to have trouble with iron. So it's probably a good idea that I just maintain at least a basic supply for myself that will mean there won't be massive shortages. All right, let's go ahead and activate sewing machines, and we'll activate mechanized workshops. I don't think we're going to use water tube boilers, although that is kind of starting to become viable now. But I want to have as many people employed in my industries as possible. Unlike most other countries, Japan has a really big population, so I want as many people to be employed as possible. The more people are employed, the more people are drawing a wage. Yes, eventually I will want to use production methods that will reduce the number of people that are required to be employed in my factories. But for now, I'm willing to accept that these factories are less profitable in exchange for more people not being subsistence farmers. Okay, eventually we will do the mechanization of the workforce, but not right now. Our main goal now is to get as many of these peasants converted into productive workers that are not working the land. That has actually been basically our entire goal for basically the entire game. I kind of wish there was like a graph and I could see how many peasants I've taken away from the land. God, look at this. Just over the course of like 2 or 3 years, we have created an entire new industry here for groceries. Like you could see, each factory completes, the price is just spiking. Looks like we've got a little bit of an uprising here. I'm going to go ahead and mobilize myself a single army of 20 troops. That should be more than enough to defeat these guys. Our literacy is now up to 38.8%, and literacy is an important part of our long-term development plans. We need to increase the quality of life of our people so that they become more literate, and then when they become more literate, they'll be more qualified for better jobs, thus increasing their quality of life. Oh, nice. We discovered the ability to grow rubber in Kenya. So I'm going to be kind of conservative when it comes to growing rubber. There's a huge amount of potential here for rubber. That's great. So we've secured a supply of rubber for the Japanese shogunate, who will hopefully become Imperial Japan soon and change our flag. Hihi have launched a uprising against me. That's a decentralized power here. Unfortunate on their end that I have the capabilities of mobilizing. I think I just have to wait for this army to finish up what they're doing, because this one's about to go through and then I can mobilize this army to this front. Really, I should maybe make a military here in this base, but I'm kind of like every bit of resource that I put into making a military is resources that's not going into increasing my GDP. Yeah, we should be able to shred these poor, disorganized people, which, you know, is obviously not ideal. Ideally, we would want to have the maximum amount of people in these places so that we can have them work in important industries. But that is just unfortunately not how things work in this game. I think it's about time, now that we have a really, really strong economy, I think it's about time that we started expanding our institutions. I can't really afford it, actually. I don't have the balance, so I need to continue to expand my GDP. I'm kind of caught in a trap, right? I'm on maxed out taxes, which is not good. So my economy is actually incredibly fragile, but this is kind of how you have to play sometimes. You play incredibly close to the edge. A couple of native uprisings, this should be fine. We should be able to conquer these without too much in the way of issues. Peace deal proposed, we will annex them, thank you very much. More of Africa is conquered by Japan, and even Russia is getting involved in Africa now. Portugal's expanding, the Netherlands are here, France is here. Everyone's trying to get a piece of this. Okay, so we massively expanded our iron industry, giving us at least a domestic source of iron. Let's go ahead and start specializing a couple of regions. In particular, we're going to mass produce dyes because I know the rest of the world wants them. So by mass producing dyes in this area, we will be able to benefit from economy of scales. Plantations do really, really well from economy of scale because their only input is wages, which is not affected by throughput, but their output is affected by wages. So that's really, really nice. Now, that's not true if you go to rail transportation, which is something you will eventually want to do to lower the number of employed people in here so that you can free up people to work in other industries. But look, remember when I talked about the line gets ever and ever and ever more vertical? We are now in the vertical part of the line, baby. And that line will just continue to curve up. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful experience. I think my goal is to become one of the biggest producers of dye in the world. So right now we're the number 3 producer. I would like to be, it'll be hard to become the number 1, but number 2 is definitely possible. Right, so I haven't really been talking much about war because we haven't had any real wars yet, but when we do eventually have a real war, I will talk a little bit more about like war and the impacts and the meaning and, you know, the strategy and the gameplay mechanics. We have a rather large surplus, so I'm going to let that burn away our credit, and then I should be able to think about starting to lower my taxation rate, or I could continue to reinvest in my economy. You know, that's also an option. So we just unlocked the ability to do first aid for our conscription centers. What this does is, if I go to my development here, this allows us to activate first aid. And recovery rate is pretty simple. It's basically a percentage of the casualties that you take in a battle will be returned to either your country pool, your like population pool, or your military pool. The percentage of casualties a military unit takes that survive, in some cases by becoming dependents. So there's it just basically increases the chance that your military casualties can return to the front line, which is a really, really important part of technology because it allows, remember how we beat Portugal in the Spain and Portugal war was we kind of wore them down, right? We just hammered them over and over with masses of Japanese troops, even though we're technologically superior. They just couldn't hold, they couldn't maintain that level of casualties, whereas we could because we had a massive conscription center, a massive barracks that was just constantly churning out new troops. So we are kind of beginning to enter into the phase of the game where attritional warfare will take over. Trench warfare will become an incredibly important part of the game. And also great wars will start happening. Now, all right, that's awesome. We're starting to export a huge amount of dyes to the French market. Would anyone else like to buy my dyes? Let's look at the productivity. Qing would like to buy my dyes. The Spanish and the Russians want to buy. I'll sell some to Qing because they're a nearby neighbor, so they won't use too many convoys. Looks like we had a little bit of a market access problem here, so we're just going to build up a little bit of railway here. There's some turmoil, and I'm not sure why. One thing I don't fully understand is where turmoil comes from. That is one of the game mechanics I have yet to figure out. I didn't realize that I had a massive sugar shortage in my industries, so I've started to import some sugar to try to take care of that because this was actually causing my my grocery markets to go bankrupt. My food industries rather. Yeah, you can see a lot of my food industries are kind of just actually straight up broke because there's a shortage of sugar. The good news is we can potentially use Africa as a source of sugar, which I think is essentially our entire goal. Let's see, what's the sugar deficit like? It's pretty bad. Let's build a little bit of sugar plantations in Africa. Didn't think about that. Did not think about that. We have a native uprising. This looks like these guys here. Oh, this tiny little nation there. That's fine. I'll mobilize an army and just deal with that. That'll be not a problem. What is going on with turmoil in here? Why is everyone upset? It looks like it's just too profitable to be working on the silk plantations, so my people are having trouble getting the qualified workers for some of the factories. That's fine. We'll sort that out long term, but right now we want to get the massive GDP from these dye plantations going. Looks like I have a convoy shortage again, so I'm going to go start ahead and massively expand the ports in my country. We've also just unlocked socialism, which will allow us to do some really nifty and cool law changes if we wanted to. We could go to like a council republic. I think it's here. So we're currently at landed voting. It might be worth it to take a look and see if we could do some voting reform, actually. If we went down to wealth voting, this would allow more of my country to become politically active. Now let me have a look. How radicalizing is this? Quite radicalizing for the shoguns, which I want to avoid doing. Yeah, so we'll wait until the shoguns are, we'll wait until we do the honorable restoration, and then we'll think about doing more reforms. We're slowly climbing up in our GDP per capita. We're up to the 65th worldwide. We're now the 5th largest economy in the world. We're catching up to France. Huge. The graph line only goes up, baby. Line only goes up. Let's temporarily lower taxes just to give my people a little bit of a higher quality of life. This will allow them to continue to expand the population. And having a ton of money in our gold reserves doesn't really do much for us. It's really, really good if you want to do a big war. But beyond that, it doesn't really seem very useful. We could consider continuing to expand our construction industry. We are working on steel frame buildings, which could potentially lead to steel frame buildings, right? We could start using tools, glass, steel, and explosives to actually build our buildings. We might not activate that immediately. That looks like a really, really expensive way to build stuff. That'll be something we do when we hit like 200 million GDP. Right now we're still building with iron frame buildings. We're getting a lot of rubber rushes, which I'm looking forward to. I'm going more of a cautious route. I want to have rubber plantations forever. Ooh, child labor restrictions, or we can increase the mortality of laborers and upset a couple of my interest groups. We'll take the mortality of laborers, that's fine. Let's kind of check in on some of the population in Kansai here. How's the education of the peasants? Oh, they're actually very, very literate, thanks to the promoting of social mobility as well as their wealth value. What else is affecting that? 25% private schools are helping promote social mobility. Yeah, they're doing well. So literacy is increasing. The population in this area is very, very literate, which is probably where I should concentrate a lot of my industry. So I'm just building a few sugar plantations to make sure that I have a well-supplied food industry, because my food industry collapsed a little bit there. And now we've managed to stabilize the price of groceries. That's excellent. Ooh, yeah, our available convoys and our required convoys are getting like pretty out of whack. How do we, let's have a look at the production methods that are available for ports. So we could, in theory, go to industrial ports. This will use less clippers and start using steamers. We're not producing steamers, so we might have to wait a little while there. That would be a big bump, though, in the convoy production. It would be expensive, but we will start pushing in that direction. We're kind of at our port limit a little bit. Keep in mind, these ports, they require 5,000 people to work in them, right? So I have to pay the wages of those people, and that's expensive. And they only provide 200 convoys, whereas if I was inputting more expensive goods, you know, we could do more interesting stuff. Let's upgrade to level 5 construction industry everywhere, at least in mainland Japan. I say everywhere when I really mean, you know, the bit of Japan that we're focusing on developing hardcore. Let's go ahead and start cutting consumption taxes on goods to increase the quality of life of my people. How's the quality of life of people working in this mine? Pretty damn good, I might say. So we finished our construction queue of dye plantations, which is time we take a look. So it looks like we have a huge export market for liquor brewing. I didn't actually mean that to be a pun. If we take a look here, because of all of our food industries, we're producing a massive surplus of liquor, which we theoretically could go ahead and sell. Let's have a look. In terms of productivity, man, the French just love my goods. Let's sell liquor to the French. France might be my most important trading partner right now. It would also be good. Ooh, Communist East India Company. I'm not going to sell to them because they might not be around forever. How about dyes? Let's have a look. I think it might be a good idea for me to start teching for steamers. Is that in military technology? Let me have a look. Ironclad. This will allow me to start producing steamships. They're quite expensive and complicated to produce. Nah, we'll get by with basic clipper convoys for a little while. Nah, we're fine. Line must go up. Line has curved downward slightly, which is not good. Let's have a look at the world markets. There's not much in the way for demand for oil. Actually, the UK has a big demand for oil, so we could massively expand our whaling. Whaling stations produce oil and meat. We have a little bit of a look at that, right? So whaling station, let's say I built one. Steam-powered whalers. There's a lot of mortality here, which is unfortunate. But let me tell you, I need that oil, I need that meat. Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, as the world is going to start consuming oil soon, to do a mad dash to grab all the oil we can from the potential whaling stations. Those poor whales, dude. They're going to be fueling our economy. Oh no. I feel kind of bad. I'm going to declare an interest in Europe, mostly so that I can trade with Germany and Austria. So I have an interest in Poland, but nah, let's do... because I just need iron. I need someone to be able to give me iron. So I'm going to say I have an interest in the Rhine, purely just to be able to trade for potentially more resources. The cool thing is, whaling stations will also produce fish, which are relatively expensive right now, thus further expanding the capabilities here of my nation. Why are you having trouble being profitable? What is the issue? Oh, Jesus Christ, India has exploded. Communist East India Company. I mean, I saw this kind of happening at the corner of my eye, and I was just like, I had to come over here and look at this. Jesus. I thought we would get through the honorable restoration, but honestly, this was the line goes up restoration. Jesus. Dude, there is absolute chaos here. My computer... Oh my God. Oh, this is a battle. Look away. Don't look at it directly. It's like it's like a solar eclipse. Don't look directly at the Communist East India Company can't hurt you, okay? I'm going to call that the end of this episode, though. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.